sometimes for some reason the earbuds they just can you
Yeah,
hear now?
I feel like a lot. Yeah, you're good. A lot of
Okay.
people, every time people use the earbuds like for their Zoom or something, it always does weird things. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does. Well, hi. How are ya?
Hi. So good to meet you. Thanks for having me on. This is so exciting.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I love your background. That's amazing.
Oh, thanks. I've had to make my studio into a live stream spaceship.
You did an amazing job though. I love it. I love it. It's great.
It's so funny. I feel like a lot of people, it's like all these musicians, like everybody has like a tapestry like this. It's really funny. It's just like, it's just like
Yeah.
stuck it on the wall. It's like, what can make my wall look interesting? It's like everybody has some like hippie tapestry.
Yeah, I remember in high school, I used to have a English teacher, Sue, who she had tapestries all over the wall, and she was the teacher who, like, you know that she definitely smoked pot, and she, like she was the teacher that like let everybody just like hang out in her room during lunch. So yeah, I love a good tapestry. I do.
You need them.
Brings
They're
me
important.
back. Where are you right now? Are you in
So
LA?
no, I'm in my home studio in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I love Austin so
Yeah.
much.
Now wait, you just moved like yesterday, right?
I did just move last night. I
Oh my
moved. I
God.
am in my new apartment in LA. Welcome. You're
Wow.
the first person in my bedroom.
You need a
Hey,
tapestry.
I need a tapestry. That's it. That's it. Yes. Well, my roommate is so amazing. She went out. She got me a pug comforter. It has pugs on it, because she knows I love
Cute.
pugs.
Do you have a
So
pug?
I had two of them. Yeah, I had two
Oh.
of them. So yeah, but I was coming out here for a project, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the movie, and then I'm just gonna move there and stay there.
That's cool. Oh my
So we'll see what
gosh.
happens.
I'm not gonna lie, I did like a Nikki Blonsky dive on the internet today and I was just like, what a cool story. I didn't know the backstory on, how you landed in Hairspray and all that. And I'm sure you've told that story so many times, but I found it very, like, so cool. Really cool.
Oh, well, thank you. It's definitely been a wild journey and ride. Like sometimes there are several times where a day at least where I'm like, okay, you're not delusional. Like this happened. Um it's a serious check-in, because sometimes it sounds, some of the things that come out of my own mouth sound so outlandish, you know.
That's so cool. Well, that's the thing. You were what, 18, 17?
I was 17.
That is so like I can't even imagine. You're like serving ice cream and then you're like in this huge movie. Like I just can't.
Oh my gosh.
That's so
My I have to ask you, when did you start singing?
yeah. I mean, I always loved to sing, like as a kid. And
Mm.
fortunately, there's really good public schools here in Austin, public school arts programs. At least there were. We've been steadily defunding public schools in Texas. So, that has its drawbacks on a lot of levels. But yeah, so I went to all public schools and I got into choir when I was in sixth grade and loved it and got into high school choir. And we would do everything from, Mozart's Requiem to um, dance, like we'd travel to San Diego and do like show choir dance routines and
I
stuff. And
love
we had
that.
this thing every year that was called cabaret. And it was just like this huge, mashup of songs, sometimes featuring movie songs, sometimes featuring musicals. And then I got into a musical. And so I kind of have that certain vibe. I think, we have a similar experience there.
If you had to pick, I mean, because people do this to me all the time, and I think it's one of the cruelest things ever. So naturally, I have to do it to you.
Of course.
Um, uh, what's your favorite musical? And please don't say Hairspray, because it's not like I'm the first person to be like, mine's, it's not Hairspray. It's like, don't please.
Well, okay, it was Wicked until Hamilton came out, and then just like I
I know.
so amazing. And actually this story, so it's funny because the I went out to LA. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Jody. So she brought me out to LA. I think it was my birthday weekend. And she was like, "Hey, we're gonna go watch like 3000 BC or some movie or whatever." And it shared. It was on in Hollywood, and I think like the movie theater shares a theater space with another, like an actual theater. I
Mm.
can't. If I lived in Hollywood, I would probably know what these are. The Grand Theater. I don't know what it is. Anyway, and so we're walking in there, and I think we're going to this movie, and she fakes me out with tickets to Wicked. And I was never like a huge musical person. Like, I mean, I'd seen a couple musicals in my life, and I really, I enjoyed them, but I wasn't like a freak about musicals. And oh my God, Wicked, like I can still remember the intermission, like that last note until intermission, and it was just like, oh, like mind blowing, so good. Like the singing was so good. So then when it comes time for us to get engaged, I Hamilton had come out, but it was super expensive and it was only in New York. Well, then, a few months later or a year later or whatever it was, the Chicago one opened up and it was a little more affordable. And so I literally like have a friend in Chicago and I got like tickets on Craigslist. And I had him go like legit. I was like, "I need these to be legit tickets. Can you go check it out?" And he was like, "Yes." So he goes there and he like phones me and, he's like, "Okay, these look legit." And I was like, "Okay, we're doing it." So we got these like badass tickets to Hamilton. We were on row like H or something.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
so good. And so then I took her there and then I proposed to her that night. So Hamilton has like a special place in our hearts.
Oh my gosh. I love that. It's
Actually, and then for our wedding, she was like, "You know what you're giving me, right?" And I was like, "Yes, no. What is it?"
yeah.
And she was like, "My Hamilton tribute." And I was like, "Okay, that's not real." I was like, "Yeah, whatever is happening." And then like a day later, I thought, "Okay, I could do this." And so I did this mashup of Hamilton songs and told like our story. It's on the internet.
Oh my gosh. I feel like Lin-Manuel Miranda needs to see this. It's like, oh my, this is beautiful. I love that. I love when love stories have memories like that, you know what I mean? And certain songs or certain books or movies or whatever mean something so much, so,
Mhm.
oh, that's gorgeous. I love that. It's amazing. I mean, my experience with musicals started like super super young. I think like my first one that I ever remember seeing on TV and being totally taken by was Mary Poppins.
Mm.
I was just like, wow, I have to do that. I have to find a way to sing and fly. And, and then I found out you can't fly, but you can sing. So maybe give that a go. And now growing up for me, my grandparents were like a huge influence on me musically. Who was a very big influence on you musically?
That's a good question. You know what's interesting is like I didn't really grow up around a lot of music. I do remember, so I grew up in the 80s, definitely a child of the cassette tape. And so, I do remember jamming out to, I had my little cassette players, and sometimes we would like make our own little mixtapes by like, stopping and starting and doing like super jerry-rigged versions of mixtapes and stuff. Um, Actually, I just remembered about this. Like, did you ever watch Flash Beagle or like hear it? It was like a Snoopy. It
Yes,
was
I
like
think
the
so.
Peanuts like
Yeah.
musical or something. So I would like dance around to Flash Beagle, and I had a Michael Jackson glove, like one of those like sequined gloves.
Yes.
Oh my God. And Michael Jackson. So that was definitely a big thing. But I remember listening. So I had cassette tapes that I loved to listen to. And there was Little Richard, Lyle Lovett, who, if you don't, a lot of people that are not from Texas don't know Lyle Lovett, but he's
Oh,
incredible.
I know Lyle loves it.
Okay, good. And then Michael Jackson and the Judds. Like these are the cassette tapes that I remember being super into.
Okay, I'll tell you my cassette tapes because there were
Okay.
cassette tapes in my car. My parents had a station wagon, and we would have the cassette
Yes.
tapes. And like every once in a while, I was allowed to go to Sam Goody and buy my
Yes.
cassette tape. So I remember my first one was Ace of Base.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, Ace of Base. Then I also, oh gosh, wait,
Wait, you're a child of the 90s then, right?
I'm 88, so I'm
Okay.
late 80s, 90s. So it was Ace of Base. I had Leanne Rimes, Blue.
Yes.
Yep. And there was one other one. Oh, Diana Ross and the Supremes. I had the original, because that's my favorite song ever. Of course, now I'm blanking on it, but it was the first song I ever sang. Oh, why am I blanking on it? My
Stop in the
mom.
Name of Love.
Yes, Stop in the Name of Love. That is exactly what
Yes.
it was. I remember hearing it as a kid on the radio, and I just started, Stop in the Name of Love. And then that was
Yes.
it. That was it.
Oh my God. So that song in particular, it's so funny. That song really brings back to me that like I remember, so what I would do as a kid before I ever got into like kind of the choir, even after the choir thing, I think it's like I was definitely always that kid that, wanted someone to notice that I had a good voice, right? But I didn't want to be like all, obvious about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I had an older brother, and like, of course I like really looked up to him, and he, of course hated me because I was a little sister, and no big brother likes their little sister when they're 10 or whatever. And so I remember sitting in the back seat with one of his friends, and that song came on the radio, and I loved that song. That was another like big. I didn't have a Supremes cassette tape, otherwise I would have jammed it. And that song came on, and so it was like those moments where I'd like sing like just loud enough to like hope that somebody would hear me and be like, "Hey, you have a good voice,"
Yeah.
I would do that
Yeah.
all the time.
It's like that secret. It's like you want to. I would do that in church when I would sing in church. It would be
Mm-hmm.
like, I knew my mom would want to hear me sing. My nan would want to hear me sing. I would want to sing, but I also wouldn't want like the rest of the parishioners because I would notice I would start singing and then everybody else would dial it down.
Mm,
And I'd be like, nope, no, please sing with me.
yeah.
So, but it's always weird. It's like, yes, it is. It's like, yes, this is my voice, but yeah, it's interesting. I feel you on that. You want people to hear you, but at the same time, you're like so nervous.
Yeah.
What's been one of the most nerve-wracking experiences you've had performing? Have you had any, just like ultimate jitters?
What's probably my like most embarrassing moment? Um, I I was so I had tried out I was Seitel in Fiddler on the Roof, my senior year in high school. And there were two casts. There was like, just because we had so many shows, there was kind of like a cast one, cast two kind of thing. And so I was in cast two. So the night of, it was like back to school night or something. And we were just doing like a piece, from Fiddler on the Roof, but I wasn't supposed to do it. My, cast one was supposed to do it or something. And last minute she gets sick. And so they call me in to do it. And I hadn't practiced it. So like, I wasn't, because we hadn't started rehearsals and all this kind of stuff. I had like just gotten the part. But I also am a procrastinator, and this like totally bit me on the ass because I got up on stage in front of all of these parents and I literally just like stood there. Like I didn't sing it. And I think I ran off stage crying.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. And I remember my mom. So my mom is a very sweet person, but she's also like she's not going to coddle you. You know what I mean?
Right, sure.
And I think I got home. I think she laughed at me. Because she was just kind of like, oh, Gina, like, kind of thing, like just slough it off. And it was like the worst moment of my life.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was
Yes.
just like mortified and like felt like crawling under the earth.
But see, two things could have happened there. You could have crawled into the earth and been like, I'm never going to sing or perform again. This shit's ridiculous. I'm never doing this, because that feeling. But then at the same time, you also turned it into the complete opposite and positive. I was like, well, I'm just gonna run with it, and I'm gonna sing my face off, because now I've been listening to your music on Spotify for some time now, and I mean, I have my favorites, but I mean, Ella, oh my gosh, it's the jam. What's your writing process like?
Let's see. So actually, it kind of relates to your last question. So as far as like kind of moments that freak me out, I'm a performer, you know. So getting up on stage in front of people when I know what I'm singing is not a problem. You know, I think
I'm the same way.
you know, so for me, writing is the stage that freaks me out the most. Like it's like I avoid it. I literally, even the past few days, I'm just like, okay, I really need to like sit down and work on new music. I've been busy for very good reason, but now it's like, it's time. And I will start cleaning the house and like doing all the things that you do when you're like avoiding the real work. And that for me is kind of the stage that gives me stage fright, is this, like being in my own space, in my own head, with my own thoughts and believing in myself. You know, so I think as far as my process, honestly, I love rhythm. I think, you know, my music is pretty diverse as genre wise. Like it's a little hard to pin down um, how to describe my music. But I think the glue is rhythm. Like I love rhythms. And then I love groove. And so I tend to start with kind of a sound. If I pick up a guitar, like trying to find a chord progression, but also just trying to find like a rhythm with it and kind of like feel it. And then honestly, I let that determine what the lyrics are, right? Because like, you know, like I might just sing gibberish for a while and like almost work with vowel sounds. You know, I'll just be like da 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 da, like just kind of riff on stuff, and then I'll be like no 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 no, I want something with an O, like I need something that ends in an O, you know.
Right.
And so, and then, you know, like there's this song called Heaven Knows, and I was like, heaven knows you're just my type. You know, and so it's almost like trying to kind of be the instrument instead of sitting there and being like, I'm gonna write about a love song to my wife. You know?
Yeah, no, and it's about feeling it. And yeah, see, I've always wanted to write. I started playing piano when I was very, very little, but I have very, very little hands, little baby hands. So I could never make the full chord. And so I didn't stick with it. And I always kind of wish I did. But when it comes to writing, like I'll come up with melodies in my head, but I haven't, you know, the lyrics will come to me sporadically here or there, but that's really more so after I've started writing a book. And then once I started writing the book, then lyrics and poems and all sorts of other things started to come out, because it all kind of started out this summer when I came out of the closet, you know, and was like, oh, yay, right? Hey. So,
Welcome.
and I have to say, your music really did help me. It was there. I listened to you a lot during those months where I was, you know, preparing to coming out.
Oh.
And so I was super excited to talk to you, because I would just listen to your music and play it in my backyard on like the loudest volume, and just like, because it made me feel so free, and it transcended me, and it took me out of like it let me be me, but let me be in the moment, but also it took me out of the moment, and I wasn't in that stressful, you know, what's the next move or what's coming next. Like, so I just wanted to take that moment to like thank you for the beauty that you're putting out into the world, because it helped me a lot.
Wow, that's incredible. That's like the highest honor I think that any creator can receive. Thank you. That's awesome. Like it's so funny because even sometimes even things like, you know, getting nominated for the Latin Grammys, which like still to me is kind of like unbelievable. sometimes like those kinds of messages and comments, it's almost like I don't allow myself to believe them. It's like other people's music changes lives and changes the world, you know, but not mine. But I'm just like, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Can I tell you, I do the same thing because it's almost like you don't know how to take it. You know, when people tell me, oh, Hairspray's changed my life or whatever, and I'm like, it's the love is, it means just knowing that something that I love so deeply, you love, that just means so much to me. So I totally understand what you mean. But it's awesome how entertainment can, you know, do more than entertain. It can really just fill parts of your soul. And I think that's what music has always done for me. I mean, movies and TV, yes, I love my film and television, but I find myself, you know, late at night, you know, if I'm lonely, I'm putting on Eric Clapton and I'm just having a moment, you know. Who's one of your go-tos that if you just need to just take a moment for Gina?
So I love Latin music. So I'm probably going to name some people you've never heard of, but I would say my recent is Lido Pimienta. She is a Colombian artist who lives in Toronto, and she's super young. I want to say she's like 18 or 20. And oh my God, her new album that actually it was nominated in the Latin Grammys and just got a Grammy nomination. It's called Miss Columbia, and oh, it's so good. Like I got chills. Like it's so good. So Lido Pimienta is definitely like an inspiration right now. I would say the other person that comes to mind is Natalia Lafourcade, who's from Mexico, and she's, in my opinion, one of the greatest like voices of our time.
Have you ever heard of the singer LP? Okay.
I can't say that I have.
Okay, I have become so at the time that I became obsessed with your music, I became obsessed with hers, and so yeah, check her out as well. It's amazing. There are these Spotify. It gives us like these playlists like made for you, and honestly, I've been living for them. But I mean, there's so many wonderful artists out there, especially with the quarantine. They are creating some new, you know, exciting, fun stuff, and they're putting it out there and they're being, you know, vulnerable, and it's really awesome.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? This is kind of related to one of the first questions you asked, but I guess it was about, you know, when you were talking about Mary Poppins and like that feeling of, you know, wanting to fly. And it's so interesting to me because I feel like I didn't understand that I was a lesbian until I was 24. And so cheers to late bloomers.
Yeah. Yep. I came out at 31. Yes.
You know, but like, I also I feel like I never understood music in a lot of ways. I always liked upbeat songs. Like I hated love songs. I hated cheesy stuff. And I think it's because I didn't understand that my heart actually did work because it wasn't in the realm of possibility. Like, because I wasn't falling in love with guys, right? So then I was like, okay, well, I don't understand these like stupid love songs where people talk about wanting to hang the moon and like, you know, walk a million miles. And I'm like, this is so lame.
I completely understand. They never related to me either. I would sing them when I would do my little gigs, and I'd be like, when a man loves a woman. I'm like, that's my parents' wedding song, you know, and it's like, you know, and you hear these songs, but once you can relate them to even if it's not somebody, just know that your heart is now open to the possibility of a love like that. And I will say, you know, I have an ex-girlfriend, but I will say that going through that relationship, all the love songs started to make sense. You know what I mean? And and I didn't hate them anymore. And I didn't want to turn like you know, every time I would hear one of like, I love Whitney Houston, but sometimes I couldn't, it would just be too much. Now I listen to it and I embrace it. And even though she's my ex-girlfriend and we both, you know, I'm single and she's moved on, I'm thankful for that experience because it made me realize that the feeling that I feel through music, it has made my heart alive in more ways than one, and I don't hate all love songs.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly kind of what I was saying was like, I remember kind of the days that I understood that I was like, I'm in love, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a whole journey with faith and like all this stuff. And I do think that for a lot of queer people, you're often going through that struggle while you are, if not in a relationship, wanting to be in one. You know, it's like you're
Yeah.
often faced with it while you're also faced with like the realities of that particular relationship. You know, so it's like we were dealing with, you know, Jody and I met at the University Catholic Center. All of our friends were Catholic. We were raised Catholic. So we're clearly like, okay, this clearly can't happen, right?
Right.
But then, you know, we have like this behind closed doors thing that's happening and it's really tumultuous and we can't talk about it and we won't talk, you know what I mean? It's like all of that was just mixed up into one little thing. And so I'm dealing with the fact that I'm like, well, clearly I can't be a lesbian because like God wouldn't have made me that way, but I can't like not be with this girl, but I'm going to talk to like, you know, my priest, and my priest actually was like, Gina, God loves you and he loves who you love. And I'm like, that's confusing. And then, you know,
Yeah.
I was just like,
Like, who do I listen to?
you know, but like, and I had some really good like messages from within the church and even a Catholic nun that literally was like, Gina, have you discerned your sexuality 3 times in an hour-long conversation? She never judged me about it. She just said, you need to talk to God about who you are and who you love. And I was just like, Catholic nun is telling me to discern my sexuality. Like, I guess I should do that. How do I do that? You know? So it's like all of those things are wrapped up into one thing. And I do remember the days when you know, very much was talking to God like every 5 seconds about like, I was like, what is it that I feel for this girl? Do I love her? Is it lust? Is it good? Is it bad? Where does it come from? And after doing that for months, you know, like I just remember I don't remember the day, but I do remember understanding at some point, oh, I'm in love. This is me being in love. And then I started to look back on my life and be like, oh, I've been in love before. I just didn't
Yeah.
know I was in love. Because it often wasn't sexual for me. It was just like I was infatuated with a girl and wanted to like be around her all the time. Or she was my best
Right.
friend.
Right.
You know, so it's like, oh my God. Looking back and I was like, oh yeah, I've definitely been in love before.
Well, it's interesting. I grew up Catholic, you know, going to Catholic school and the whole thing. And I mean, my friends say to me now, they're like, you played 9 years of softball. Really? You had no idea. And I'm like, what? I was focused on a career, you guys, you know. But I will say that, yeah, for me, you know, we just didn't we just in my school they didn't talk about sexuality a ton, whether it be homosexuality or hetero. It just wasn't spoken about. And I remember just as I got older, you know, my friends would have crushes on boys, and honestly, I was at 15 when I saw Hairspray. I just knew in my body
Mm,
that I was going to do that. I couldn't
so
explain it.
cool.
And so it was like, yeah, I played the sports and I went along and I hung out with my friends and I liked the boys, but I always knew there was something different and I knew there was something underlying and I just didn't know what. And for me, I think just, yeah, it was a journey to come out, but once I realized, you know, and it's interesting, I realized that I have had love in my life. And, you know, and then I also realized people that I thought that I did love, I definitely did not because, you know, so it's been interesting. But I've had those conversations with God.
Yeah.
It was funny. I was talking to my best friend the other day and I said, so I checked in with God. And she said, what? I said, yeah, I checked in with him. And she goes, how do you check in? And I said, well, I said to him, and I'm not kidding. This is how this word for word, this is what I said to God. I said, hi, it's me. I know I haven't popped in a while, but because it was during the quarantine, and I was like, look, I know there's a lot going on right now. I was like, you've got a lot on your plate, and I just want to let you know, like, I'm here for you. what 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 possessed me to tell God that I'm here for him or
Well,
her?
not a lot of people do that though. That's
But
actually really nice.
but I just think I was like, yeah, I was just thinking, he's probably got a lot going on. But I mean, it's those conversations. And my friend who is a reverend, she always reminds me, you don't have to, go to church to have those conversations with God. And you can have your own relationships, and it can be spiritual. It doesn't have to be exactly religious, but just to have a core, sense of value and morals, I think is important. And as you discover yourself, as I've discovered myself, I think I've definitely become a little bit more definitive in what I want in life after I've come out and I've said, like we were talking about the boundaries and saying, like, this is what I want and this is what I want in business and everything. And that's kind of where I am. But where can you take me through, like, what did it feel like getting nominated for the Latin Grammy? What was that like?
Yeah, well, I captured it on Instagram, so people can go watch the actual moment if they want to. Or it was a couple moments after the moment, but I will say that just kind of the backstory on this, I've always, for years I've wanted to write an album in Spanish, and I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I'm half Mexican, half Swiss German, also part Italian, not Italian, sorry, part Irish. I have an Italian name, but I've got like a lot of different backgrounds, and I think like a lot of people here in the States, I'm a product of immigrants from all parts of the world, but I didn't grow up. I've always felt very connected to, my Latinx roots, but I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. I didn't really grow up much around the Mexican culture. And so for me, music has been like kind of the doorway to discover all kinds of cultures. And so part of the thing is like I've actually traveled the world with the US State Department as a cultural ambassador. And so I've been to like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Jordan,
Wow.
Uzbekistan, Guatemala, Argentina, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Kazakhstan. Like we've been to like some really cool and kind of off the beaten path places. And I for me, what's cool is that like I kind of get to be a sponge. So I'm like, oh my God, I love like this rhythm or these sounds or whatever. And then we just kind of, I just, it comes out how it comes out. So
Right.
it's like I might play a cumbia or like something that's kind of like a son clave, which we would think of as a salsa, but it's not like pure. You know what I mean? It's not like a cubano would be like, yeah, that's not salsa. You know what I mean? And so it's like things like that, but I feel like it's definitely fusion. Like that, whatever I create is just like pure fusion, and not nada puro. But like I I love having had that experience to be able to travel, to be able to kind of like pick up, different parts of myself and fuse them into my music. And, to answer your question about the Latin Grammys, like this album and like what's so cool is that this album is the one that, has gotten picked up for international attention. And because it's all in Spanish, it means a lot to me that the Latin music community has christened it, with a
Yes.
Latin Grammy nomination. Like that's, to me, I'm just like, this is amazing. Like this is so huge that I'm like not even a native speaker. And then to have music that people in Latin America, in the Latin music scene are saying like, this is awesome. That's what means so much to me. But it's also because this album means so much to me. Like, I love this album. I don't really need anybody else to love it, but I love that other people are latching onto the message and the power of these songs, because it kind of contains everything that I am. Like, it's this arrival, this culmination. So it's called La Que Manda, which means the woman in charge, or like she boss or boss bitch, you know.
Right.
It's it technically would mean like the one who calls the shots, but in female, like the woman who calls the shots.
Right.
And so that title track is like, Quien manda, ella manda. Who calls the shots? She does. Who calls the shots? She does. Si alguien te pregunta, di que yo soy la que manda. If anybody asks, I'm the one who calls the shots, you know. And it's like, quien soy? Yo soy la que manda. Who am I? I'm the one who calls the shots. Who am I? I'm the one who calls the shots. You know, and so it's just kind of this like, it's like this female, just like, get into your like ancient mojo.
Empowerment. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but it's like this album is like all of these things. It's like me as a woman. And I think a big piece of that is understanding that all around the world, you know, I've traveled all over the world, and this is true in every single culture, that young girls, from the time that we are small, throughout our lives, we are told to be small, to be quiet, to apologize, to be grateful, to be pleasing, to be pretty. And it's like you're given this tiny little box to fit in. And if you fit into it, then the world says you're a good girl. And it's like, I've come to this realization that I'm like, this is the world's biggest lie and most disgusting, like, truth. You know what I mean? It's like that's what we've been given is so awful. And it's awful that I've swallowed it for so long. And this album is kind of me coming to grips with that and understanding, oh no, I'm not doing that anymore. And then trying to unravel all of those bad habits, you know? And so it's kind of like this, like, you know, I'm going to get into my power so that other women can get into their power and we can change this place.
I feel like you and I are in a very, very similar situation, like career and project wise, because with Hairspray, I very much felt the need to like stay in that Tracy box of like that good girl, like, you know, let's not shake things up too much and be that role model, because Tracy and I, look, we have a lot of the same morals and we have very, very similar hearts. But I think for me, after coming out, especially, I think the world was like, oh, wait a second, they're not the same person. Like two totally different entities. And for me, I think, yeah, it's incredibly empowering as a woman when you're able to be your free, true self. And so with the projects that I'm working on right now, I'm finding myself in a very similar situation where I'm like, yes, I am the woman and I can do this. Yeah. And, you know, and no matter what you say and, you know, whoever's going to try and get in my way, I'm not kidding with you. I had a meeting the other day. I had a meeting on Zoom and I was very nervous. And I put that song of yours on because I needed to feel that rhythm and I needed to feel that boss bitch attitude. And I felt it. And I went into that meeting. I was like, thank you, Gina. So I feel you. So it is working. And you're right. When you put that out there for the younger generations to see, I have a 14-year-old goddaughter who I adore with all my heart. And I always tell her, I'm like, you can do anything, whatever, you know, whatever passion, you know, ignites inside of you. I just, you know, so the fact that there are artists out there like you that she can listen to means a lot to me as a godmommy.
What's her name? That's cute.
Oh, Destiny Nicole. Nicole after me. They stuck her with the Nicole.
Nice.
So where can we keep up with you?
I always say I'm in all the places. So wherever people like to consume music or find me on the interwebs, I'm everywhere. I do love me some Instagram. So if people, especially if you want to shoot me a DM, I will definitely do my best to get back to you. And I've had some really amazing conversations. Like Instagram DMs has been my 2020 without being able to travel and, tour as I normally do. It's been really cool. Like I was able to be on the Brene Brown podcast, and that like opened up such an incredible world, and we started having these incredible conversations with people on DMs. Like it was like people sharing their stories and like all this kind of stuff, and so it's been a really cool way to connect. And so I am very grateful for the technologies that we have. But people can listen wherever you listen to music. I'm there.
Sounds good. Well, I will always be listening. You know that. You know that. And I thank you for the light and the energy that you put out into the universe, because it's amazing. And your voice is just transcendent. So thank you.
Well, Nikki, what a pleasure. I feel like so honored to have had this conversation with you. I hope that we get to at some point meet in person.
Oh my gosh, please.
So,
yes.
Someday the world will open back up, and
yes, I'm desperately waiting for that. Like I honestly, it was so weird. I showed up to my film set last night, and like, normally on a film set, the first thing we do is we all just tackle each other. We all just want to hug each other. No. We're just like, oh my gosh, hi. Like it's so hard. But it's good to be working. So we'll take it. But it is different. So when we can get together, I cannot wait to give you a big hug and jam out.
I love it. All right. Well, Nikki, I hope you're settling into your new place, and congrats on the new project. Cannot wait to hear more about that.
Thank you so much. In the meantime,
I will be working on new music for you to listen to. So.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers.
Be well. Bye. She's amazing. Oh my gosh. Seriously. I'm not kidding. Her songs get me through. Like I'm like, all right, I need a power song right now. And I mean, they're a powerful artist, right? When I need a power song, I'm like, oops, Celine, Cher. But I'm telling you what, Gina Chavez, she is my powerhouse. Oh, I listen to her and I get taken away, and I love it. So Gina, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us, and for talking, so openly and sharing your story as a member of the LGBT community as well. Like me, it's still really, really awesome, you guys, that I get to say that. Yeah, I every time I say it, it gets a little bit realer, and it feels a way cooler, just because I'm finally just like, yes, it's true. I'm me. I'm gay. And so, yeah. So Gina, thank you for the power that was in those songs that really just were there for me when I was getting ready to come out. So thank you. Everybody go follow Gina on Instagram and listen to her on Spotify, and enjoy. And I will see you all soon. And I'm sending you so much love from LA. Mwah! Thanks for tuning in to Nikki Nights. I'll see you guys soon.